The rise and fall of Jorge Masvidal is something that happens so fast. In the space of just a few years, he went from winning the BMF title, being beloved by everybody, setting UFC records, to now facing criminal charges for sucker punching his best friend outside a steakhouse because he couldn't deal with the fact that he lost. First, we need to go back. It's March 16th, 2019. We haven't seen Jorge Masvidal since he lost a decision to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson in November 2017. Tonight would be the start of something the MMA world would never forget. Masvidal brutally KOs Darren Till in the second round in front of the British fans. He's being interviewed backstage by Laura Sanko after the fight. He notices Leon Edwards, approaches him, proceeds to give him what he famously coins,
"Give him the 3-piece with the soda, and then just glide out of there."
We fast forward. It's July 6, 2019. 5 seconds would change Masvidal's life forever. Masvidal KOs Ben Askren in their highly anticipated grudge match in 5 seconds, setting a new record for the fastest knockout in UFC history. The flying knee, combined with the previous 3-piece and the soda altercation, propelled Masvidal to absolute mainstream superstardom. After the fight with Ben Askren, a fight was set up with Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal to contest for a new title called the BMF, the baddest motherfucker. It was due to take place November 2019 in front of a sold-out Madison Square Garden, and the belt was to be presented to the winner by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Masvidal wins the fight. At the end of the third round, he opens up a big cut above Nate Diaz's eyebrow. Doctor stops the fight. End of the third round, Masvidal is now the inaugural baddest motherfucker in the UFC. This propelled him to levels of fame he didn't even know possible. He was one of the biggest celebrities to come out of the UFC. This takes us to July 2020. Gilbert Burns is due to take on Kamaru Usman for the welterweight title. Gilbert Burns pulls out the week of the fight due to sickness. Masvidal steps in on a week's notice, flies halfway around the world and cuts about 30 pounds of weight to take on Kamaru Usman. Kamaru Usman wins a dominant 5-round decision, but Masvidal gives a very good account of himself considering the circumstances. This sets up a rematch the following April. Masvidal gets a full camp and another crack at the pound-for-pound #1. But things don't go to plan. Usman brutally finishes Masvidal in the second round, knocks him out cold. Masvidal goes, takes some time off after this, does Masvidal type shit, flies around on a private jet, sets up a fighting organization. A couple more months pass, and then his rivalry with his ex-best friend Colby Covington starts to escalate. They're going back and forth on Twitter. Things start to get out of hand very quickly. This has been building for years. These guys used to be best friends and training partners. They used to be roommates. And then Jorge Masvidal and Colby had the same striking coach, a gentleman named Paulito. Colby apparently didn't pay him, and this caused the two to actually fall out. After months and back and forth, some really good interviews, the two are finally scheduled to fight. March, headlining their own pay-per-view event. It's a dominant 5-round victory for Colby, 50-44, 50-45. Colby won every round. Masvidal had nothing to offer up. Even after the bell had gone, both guys exhausted, Masvidal pretty much being held up by his corner, was still going at each other. The bad blood was not settled. The week after the fight, Colby is at Pappy's Steakhouse in Miami, Florida. He's with the Nelk boys. Somebody lets Masvidal know where he is. Masvidal gets the drop on Colby, sucker punches him once or twice, runs off. Colby sustains head trauma, chipped front tooth, and also a lot of damage to his 70 or 80,000 pound Rolex. After the altercation, police were called. Colby made a statement and he is pressing charges, and I don't blame him. The full details of this story are still coming out. But if you look on any of Jorge Masvidal's social media, the comments and anything he posts now are just littered with clown emojis, everybody telling him that he's a pussy and a fool. So Where does Masvidal go from here? He's on a 3-fight skid, he's facing criminal charges, and all of the fan base has turned against him. Gilbert Burns at UFC 287. This I did not see coming at all. Masvidal has said he wanted Conor, he's ended up with Gilbert fucking Burns. This is a terrible fight for Jorge. Masvidal does have good takedown defense, but Gilbert's striking mixed with his grappling and jiu-jitsu is going to be too much for a 38 or 39-year-old Masvidal to handle, and I think he's going to get his 4th L. How do you think the fight with Gilbert Burns and Jorge Masvidal is going to go? The rise and fall of Jorge Masvidal has been absolutely spectacular. It's something that happened so quickly. This is a very brief history and recap of that. Comment down below, where do you think Masvidal's career is going to go from here? And subscribe if you enjoy MMA content. Thank you so much.